Hello, dear students. My name is Dr. Hira Shukat, and I'm your course instructor, Biochemistry and Biochemistry. As you know that we have resumed our course after the conduction meeting examination, and in the last week I taught you about the addition of the lipid diet, with how what are the common sources through which we are getting the lipid diet, and what is the digestive process of that lipid diet, and what are the enzymatic actions, what are the enzymes from where they are releasing, and what is role of bile acids, and what is role of some other organs as well in the complete digestion of lipids, and some technical terms I also told you in the last week about the lipid digestion. And as you know that every digestion is always accompanied by absorption, because if you want to learn about metabolic reactions and the utilization of the digested products of the lipids, and definitely you have to go through firstly through the absorption process of lipids. So that is why today, inshallah, we will start with the absorption of lipids. But before that, obviously, we have to again take a very, very, very brief review of the last lecture. So let's take a very brief review of the last lecture. And afterwards, inshallah, we will start with the digestion, with the absorptive, with the post-digestive absorption mechanism of the lipids. So let's start with today's lecture. What are the learning objectives? What is the overview of lipids digestion? How absorption takes place of the lipids, and how the lipids will be transported into the blood. Today, we will just discuss about the transportation of the lipid into the blood only. What is the mechanism, or how the transportation will be accompanied, and how this process will be taking place. I will tell you about these transportation mechanism in the next lecture. So just I will tell you about how the lipid will take path towards the liver, because obviously if you are taking a food, you are taking the food, you are taking the lipid diet through your mouth, and afterwards it has to become the part of your liver. Then what is the mechanism, what is the root from where you just see this is your gastrointestinal tract, and from gastrointestinal tract it has to reach to your liver. So what will be the root, what will be the mechanism, what will be the supporting factors. So we have to see these things. But before, just take a brief overview of the last lecture. How we were taking the lipid diet. Basically, the lipid diet we are taking, that is present usually in the two to three sources. One of the most common source was triglyceride, which is present in a number of lipid diets. And in the diet, the lipid things that we are taking, in the 95% there is triglycerides, and rest 3 to 5% that is present, there is presence of cholesterol in the lipid diet, which we are consuming actually. And there can be some animal source, and that can be plant source, or some other synthetic oils, some synthetic fats, etc. But we have to see the digestive process, as we are concerned with the digestive process. So when we start with the digestion, first of all, the first enzyme released is always the lingual lipase, that's released from the dorsum of your tongue. And lingual lipase, it acts upon the short acting chain triglycerides, and then the food or the bolus is passing through your stomach, and there the stomach will release the gastric lipase, and that will also act upon the short and medium chain triglycerides. And afterwards the bolus and the digested, the very a very the, the digested particles, although they are not completely digested but partially digested particles, they will pass into the small intestine. And small intestine is the basic organ where the complete digestion of the lipid will take place. Then there is very important role of bile acids in the digestion of your lipid diet, because bile acids are non-polar and lipid is also non-polar. That is why in the aqueous media of the gastrointestinal tract, it is not possible for the enzymes, to accomplish the digestion. And bile acids were doing the emulsification. How they were doing the emulsification, I have told you in the last lecture. and then there was released, um, there was coming another enzyme that was pancreatic lipase, which acts upon the triglyceride. Then also there was the release of phospholipase A2, which is acting upon the phospholipids, and there was also action of cholesterol esterase, which acts upon the cholesterol esters because the cholesterol is always present in the esterified form. That is why the cholesterol estrase is also, acting upon those things. And in the result of all of these actions of the enzyme, we were getting the digested fatty acids. What were the basic products of digestion? Starting from the triglycerides and cholesterol and the phospholipids and the mouth and in the initial part of the gastrointestinal tract, while in the end of the digestion in the small intestine, what we were getting as a product of the digestion, we were having monosaccharidide or monoglyceride or the free form of the fatty acids as well, along with cholesterol, along with the phospholipids and the lysophospholipids. So these are the products of digestion. I have told you about these digestive products in the last lectures as well. So we are getting monosaccharidol, monoglyceride, or you can say monoglyceride or monoglycerol, because it was formed from the digestion or from the breakdown of the triglyceride into the fatty acids and glycerol, and we were having cholesterol, phospholipids, and lysophospholipids. Now they are present in the small intestine, and you know that from the junction of the from the junction of duodenum and jejunum, these things has to cross your intestinal wall, and then afterwards they have to become the part of the the interstitial spaces, and then subsequently of the blood, so that in order to become the part of the multiple products, and in order to become the part of multiple reactions, or they can be utilized anywhere in the organ wherever they are needed. So let's start with the absorptive mechanism. What is absorption of these digestive particles? This is the process that tends to move the digested components across the intestinal wall, so that those digested components can become the part of the blood, and they can travel easily into your blood, or into your they can reach towards their destination. That can be some cell, that can be some organ, anywhere wherever they are needed, to take part in reactions. So how absorption of long chain fatty acids is taking place? Long chain fatty acid, which contains 14, which contains carbon less than 14, they are not directly absorbed to the blood, so they has to be absorbed to the lymph. And always remember, students, there is a term known as lectins, which you have already heard in your physiology, that lectins, they are the lymphatic vessels which are associated with the absorption of the lipid particles through from your gastrointestinal tract. Okay, so the lectins or the lymphatic vessels, they can carry the fat or the fatty acids, so that that can be carried, or they can be transported into the blood, because eventually these things has to take place. Okay, so what is mixed micelle? First of all, I must tell you about the definition of mixed micelle. As I have told you about that, we are getting a monoglyceride and the cholesterol and the free fatty acid as a part of you know digestion. So micelles are basically they are small aggregates of the mixed lipids, the digested lipids, and the bile acids suspended in spherical form within the aqueous solution. So if those free digested particles, including the fatty acids and the cholesterol, if they arrange themselves in a spherical form, the aqueous media of the small intestine, and they will be known as the micelles. Okay. Okay, so mixed micelle formation after digestion, monoglycerides and fatty acids, they associate with bile salts and phospholipids to form molecular aggregates called micelle. They are all the digested products which are present in the small intestine. Micelles are much smaller than emulsion droplets, 47 nanometer versus 1 micron. meter for emulsion droplets. Okay, as monoglycerides and fatty acids are liquidated through the action of lipase, they retain their association with bile acids and complex with the other lipids to form structures called micelles. And that is again the definition of micelles. They are essentially small aggregates ranging from 4 to 8 nanometer in diameter, made up of mixed lipids and bile acids, and they are suspended in spherical forms within the small intestine. Most fatty absorption takes place in the jejunal mucosa, and micelles are transported. Actually, they are transported because they are composed of monoglycerides and fatty acids. So they are transported to the brush border surface of the enterocyte where they can be absorbed by passive diffusion. So that is a very common transporting mechanism which you already have learned in your carbohydrate section, your protein section as well. So first of all, the process is again the same, that is the passive diffusion, and through the passive diffusion, micelles are being transported to the brush border epithelial lining of your wall of the intestine or the enterocytes where they are present. So this is the first process involving the transportation across the wall and complex of lipid material soluble in water, that was micelle that has crossed through the passive diffusion. And there is again saying the micelles are spherical particles with a hydrophilic exterior and hydrophobic interior core. So always remember that I told you that they are arranged, micelles are arranged in spherical form. So what is the basically the the I must say the charge is present on them. Exteriorly they are hydrophilic, but interiorly they are hydrophobic. This can be taken as an MCQ. So muscles are spherical particles. They arrange themselves in a spherical manner, but exteriorly they are hydrophilic, but interiorly they are hydrophobic. So here you can see the diagram which is showing that they are hydrophobic interiorly and hydrophilic exteriorly. Just you can have a look over here, and this is how they all are micelles, and this is the enzyme which is attached to them, and this enzyme was being carried from your media. It was released into your tongue, and it was also released from your stomach. Mixed muscles formed by basols, triglycerol or triglycerides, and pancreatic lipase. So these are the muscles because obviously these enzymes have to stick to these particles, as I told you about the concept of the lipase and the colipase in the process of emulsification in the last lecture. So bile salts help in the formation of these aggregates due to their detergent action. That is why the emulsifying agents, the additional digestive step known as emulsification, it has been placed through by nature to support the complete digestion of lipids, right? And bile salts are absorbed in the ileum. That is there is coming another term, and that is the enterohepatic circulation. So what is enterohepatic circulation? Let's have a look at this. But first divide the enterohepatic circulation into two terms. Entero stands for the gastrointestinal tract, or you can call here the intestinal. You can relate it to the intestine, and hepatic is related to the liver. So that means that there will be some transportation between the gastrointestinal tract to the liver. And in the beginning of the lecture, I have told you that eventually from the gastrointestinal tract, they are leaving the lipids or the fats or the digestive product. They have to leave your intestine, and then they have to reach eventually to the liver. And the mechanism how they will reach to the liver, that is the mechanism of absorption which we are studying today. So first of all, let me discuss the definition of enterohepatic circulation. Enterohepatic circulation refers to the circulation of bile salts, bilirubin, or other substances from liver to the bile, followed by the entry into small intestine, absorption by the enterocyte, and transport back to the liver. All right. So enterohepatic circulation, it's a two-way transporting mechanism between the intestine and the liver, and again the between the liver and the intestines. This in order to accomplish the process of digestion and absorption. Okay. Okay. Enterohepatic circulation of bile salts left behind are reabsorbed further down the gastrointestinal tract in the ileum, and they are transported to the liver, and finally they are recycled and secreted back into the digestive tract. So, what is the root of the absorption of these things from the intestine into the lacteals or the lymph, okay, intestine to the lymph, and then from lymphatic vessels or lacteals to the blood, and then to the liver. All right, intestine, here comes the lymphatic channel, and then comes the blood, and then comes the liver. So that is the basically the route through which the lymphatic circulation is taking place in this process. Okay, here you can see students, this is basically the intestinal cell wall where the digested product are ready to be absorbed. Then they have to go to the lacteals, and after the lacteals, just have a look over here. This is the chylomicron. I will tell you about the chylomicron in the upcoming slides. Micron means small particles and chyle refers to the bile. So all the digested products, they are also known as the chylomicron because they have been converted into smaller particles of triglycerides, phospholipids, monosaccharidol, free fatty acids, etc. So they have to go to the capillaries, and this is basically the intestinal union where the mixed mass is present, and they are being absorbed by the ileum, and then there is some entry of the some substance from that digested product which is ready to be absorbed here through the portal vein, and then into the enterohepatic circulation, then to the back to the liver, and here you can see that these free fatty acids, they become the part of the capillary. So this is basically the combined presentation, that from where these things are coming and from where they are going. So this is the source of basically by the intestine, and then they are the destination. Because intestine to the lymphatic vessels, and then from the lymphatic vessels to the artery, and then to the liver are already. So they have to go to these things. Okay, intestine first, then to the lacteals or the lymphatics, then to the blood, and then to the liver. So they have added all these things over here in this diagram. Okay, re-esterification inside the mucosal cells. Inside the enterocytes, monoglycerides and free fatty acids are reformed into triglycerides. So, as you know that in throughout the digestion, that triglyceride was broken down into monoglyceride and free fatty acid, but in the inside the enterocytes, right after the digestion is over, they combine back with each other to form triglycerides, trial co-synthetase by using two high-energy phosphates, and two such activated fatty acids react with monosaccharides to form triacylglycerol. Okay, so these triacylglycerol will again be present, or will again, or it has been prepared inside your the mucosal cell of your intestine. So this triglyceride, and this and the remaining things, along with cholesterol, along with the phospholipids, they all will becoming the part of the transporting mechanism, which will be transported by your lipoproteins from one organ to some other place. Okay. Mycel formation is again here. Just have a look at this picture. The triacylglycerol. This is the last lecture's diagram. Triacylglycerol, or the triglyceride, was broken down into two fatty acids and one monosaccharides by the action of pancreatic lipase, and then there was phospholipid and cholesterol, which were all again, they were also being acted upon by the cholesterol esterase and the phospholipase A2 enzyme, which were also released from the pancreas. And in the complete digestion of the triacylglycerol, we have got three fatty acids and one glycerol. This we have also discussed this in the previous slide. So all of these free forms and the digested form, they have been converted into the micelles, which were I told you that that is the spherical form because all of these products they arrange themselves in spherical form. Okay, so free glycerol, which was released from the triacylglycerol or the triglyceride, absorbed from the intestinal lumen directly entered into the bloodstream. So free glycerol is not available for re-esterification. Okay, it directly enters into your bloodstream, and inside the cell they become chylomicrons along with the bile salts. All of these products they become the chylomicron. And chylomicron, they are also known as ultra low density lipoproteins or the lipoprotein particle. They are among one of the types of the lipoproteins which we will discuss in the upcoming lectures. That consists of the again the triglyceride, and this is that triglyceride that were they were combined back into the enterocytes from the monosaccharides and the free fatty acids that consist of triglycerides, phospholipids, cholesterol, and proteins. So they are the chylomicrons consisting of these things, and they transport dietary lipids from intestine to the other destination of the bodies. And we have already discussed this thing in the initial portion. Okay. So free glycerol it was absorbed from intestinal lumen directly into your blood. And about the chylomicron, they say that triglycerides, cholesterol, phospholipids, and along with an apoprotein, this will be used for transportation, enters the lymphatic system because they eventually have to go through the lacteals or the lymphatic vessels because they have to pass to the blood or the your subclavian artery eventually into your liver. So that is why enterohepatic circulation is taking place over here for the transportation. So this is again the diagram of the lipid absorption. You can see here again here this is the brush border epithelium of the enterocytes. Okay, there are the chylomicrons made up of apoprotein, cholesterol, phospholipids, and triglycerol, and then these chylomicrons have entered into the lacteals, and from where it will enter into the blood vessel or the blood capillary. Okay, so very simple sequence from the intestine into the lymphatic vessel, from intestine into the lymphatic vessel, and then into your blood vessel or the blood capillary, the blood channel, and eventually the liver. Okay. Next slide is saying that the chyme, a milky fluid from the intestinal mucosa loaded with chylomicrons are transported through the lacteals, they are the lymphatic vessels, into the thoracic duct, and they are emptied into lymph circulation. Okay, so the chyle from the intestinal mucosa, which was coming from, consisting of all those particles, it is transported through the lacteals into the thoracic duct, and then this thoracic duct will empty these things into the lymphatic circulation, and serum appears milky within a few hours after high fat meal uh, due to presence of chylomicrons uptake by the tissue. Okay, so this is uh, a very good representation of your absorption process. You can see here. Again, the triglycerides, the starting, the initial products are present here. Triglycerides are there, lipase enzyme is there, bile salts is there. So this was converted into the fatty acids and the monoglyceride. This is the basically the, they are the enterocytes, and this is the brush bar, the epithelium of those enterocytes. And you can see here that this fatty acids and the monoglycerides they were combined into the triglyceride. I told you in the previous slides. And then these triglycerides, along with the protein and along with the cholesterol, it was being converted into the chylomicron, and these chylomicrons they are entering into the mucosa and then into the lymphatic vessel, and this lymphatic vessel will be taken up by the lacteals, and then they will be emptied or they will be having the destination towards the thoracic duct. Okay. And what is the fate of chylomicrons? The absorbed exogenous triglycerides are transported into the blood as chylomicrons. and they're taken up by the adipose tissues and liver. And liver synthesizes endogenous triglycerides, which are transported as very low density lipoprotein deposited in adipose tissue. There are four types of lipoproteins. I'm just telling it because there has been used. They have been used the word VLDL. One we have high density lipoprotein HDL. We have low density lipoprotein LDL. We have very low density lipoprotein VLDL, and we have chylomicrons. So they are basically the transporting mechanism used to transport the the particles of the lipid from one place to other place. So again, they are saying that chylomicrons are taken up by the adipose tissue and liver synthesizes endogenous triglycerides, which are transported as very low density lipoprotein deposited in the adipose tissue. Okay, about the low density lipoprotein and the complete composition of the low density lipoprotein and the low density lipoprotein. I will tell you about them in the upcoming lectures. Okay, and what happens in the starvation triglycerides, which are there, if they are stored in the adipose tissue, obviously they will be hydrolyzed to form free fatty acids, and these free fatty acids they will be utilized in the starvation and transported complex with the albumin. And free fatty acids are then oxidized to get energy, but this happens only in the case of starvation. Okay. Okay, so after the absorption of long chain fatty acids, let's discuss about the absorption of short chain fatty acids. Short chain fatty acids, they were coming through the milk, butter, ghee, and medium chain fatty acids, we were consuming those products in form of oils, mother's milk, etc. But they do not require re-esterification because they already have low number of carbons in their chains, so they do not need a re-esterification. They directly get entered into the blood vessel, from where they will be entered into the portal vein, and from the portal vein they will be taken up by the liver, and in the liver they will be reutilized, in products, in a number of reactions they can be utilized. So the short chain fatty acid they do not require esterification. They will be entering into your blood vessels directly and then into your portal vein, okay, and then into your liver, where they can be utilized, accordingly. And what is the overview of fatty acid uptake? Short and medium chain fatty acids enter portal blood circulation directly from the enterocytes. They are bound to the albumin protein in blood, and that is known as the albumin-free fatty acid complex. And they are oxidized in liver or elongated and used for triglyceride formation. While the long chain fatty acids they form chylomicron first, then they get drained into the lymphatic channel or the lacteals, and they enter bloodstream at the thoracic duct level, and through that thoracic duct they will be getting slow entry into the blood. So just have a comparative uptake of both the short chain fatty acids and the long chain fatty acids. Short chain are getting direct and having direct entry into the blood, while long chain fatty acids they have to convert, they have to form chylomicron first, and afterwards they will go to the lymphatic vessel, and then only then through the blood they can go to the liver. While on the other hand, short and medium chain fatty acids they were directly getting entry into the blood attached with the albumin in form of albumin free fatty acid complex. Okay, okay. So there are some very common terms associated with the lipid absorption. These abnormalities they can come anywhere in the part of digestion or in the part of absorption. For example, in the protein we discussed about the lactose. We discussed about some kind of allergies in the carbohydrates. We discussed about lactose intolerance. Similarly, here are again some abnormalities. In case of defective digestion, first time we have steatorrhea. What is steatorrhea? Steatorrhea is basically excretion of abnormal fat or abnormal fat presence in your feces. Okay, this is excretion of abnormal quantities of fat with the feces owing to reduced absorption of fat by the intestine. Students, this is a very common concept. We have discussed it so many times. that all the things they want to be absorbed from your intestine into your blood, they will take the pathway of the small intestine and then into the blood. But all the things that do not want to be absorbed into your small intestine or into your blood, they will not take that path, and they will be, they will cross that small intestine, and then they will become reach into the large intestine. So in the large from the large intestine, the things will be appeared into your feces. And similarly, is having with the steatorrhea, but only in the case of some abnormalities associated with pancreas. Okay. So steatorrhea is basically the fat excretion in the feces, and it should be less than 6 grams per day. Unsplit fat or undigested fat is seen in the steatorrhea, and this happens in the case of chronic disease of pancreas. And there comes another thing, that is split fat seen in stools of fatty acids and monoglycerides, and this can be due to removal of the intestine, or this can be due to Crohn's disease, or this can be due to absence of bile duct, or absence or abnormal process of emulsification, and this can be due to gallstones or any kind of tumor. But you have to just have a look at this slide, because at the level of biochemistry, this is not important for you to have to memorize these things. But in the clinical course, when you will be in your advanced semester, then you have to take, you have to be having diploma in these. But right now, I'm just focused on the main absorption process. Okay, triglycerides with short chain fatty acid and medium chain fatty acid, they face no problem in digestion, as they do not require micelle formation for absorption. Hence, in malabsorption syndromes, milk, fat, and coconut oils are preferred therapeutically. Okay, okay. What is urea? Chyle is again the word specified for chyle or the bile. Urea term is always specified for something related to the urine. So, urea is basically appearance of chyle in urine, milky appearance due to lipid droplets, and due to abnormal connection between urinary tract and lymphatic drainage, there can be urea. So, just you can have a look over here again. The short chain fatty acids and medium chain fatty acids, they just cross the intestinal walls, and then they get their they get entry into the capillaries or the blood directly. While what happens with the long chain fatty acids, they have to convert themselves into chylomicron, and from chylomicron will go into the lacteals, and from lacteals they will take the path of the portal vein, and then they can get entry inside the liver. So this is about the enterohepatic circulation of the bile acids. If you want to ask any question related to this, then you can ask me. And this is again the overview of lipid digestion, how how the lingual lipase, how the gastric lipase, pancreatic lipase, bile salts, phenodeoxy acid, cholic acid, pancreatic lipase, cholesterol esterase, how they have released, how they have been released from a number of organs in order to facilitate the digestion of the lipid. So, if you want to ask any question related to this, you can ask me, and inshallah, we will discuss them again in your interactive session. Okay, so this is about the absorption of lipid.